Some interesting news to tell you about regarding Mark Zuckerberg's meeting this week with a group of conservatives and charges of political bias at Facebook. I will be there on Wednesday at this meeting. The company reached out to me to take part, along with several others, including the Blaze's Glenn Beck and Arthur Brooks. He's the president of the American Enterprise Institute. The meeting was scheduled to address claims by former employees that the social network manipulates its trending news feed to suppress conservative news from it. In a statement last week, Zuckerberg said that the network found no evidence to support those claims, but would continue to investigate. So that is ongoing. But in the meantime, Eric, they said they'd like to have this meeting. So we're going to head out there on Wednesday. This is, I go to you first because I think that you're one of the most active on Facebook, and especially in terms of news engagement with viewers and your fans. This is not the news feed that people see. This is news trends, which Facebook added later. And they're trying to deal with that portion of it because it possibly wasn't as objective as an algorithm would be if you add human thought into it.
So first of all, congratulations. That's an honor. That's a fantastic honor to be brought to that meeting. I think Facebook needs to get out in front of this, and here's why. You're right, I'm very active on both Facebook and Twitter. I cash in the Saturday morning show. I'm very active during the show. And on Twitter, the hashtag #CashingIn trends every single Saturday morning. It doesn't trend a long time, but it trends nationally so far every Saturday in 2016. Also on Twitter, they had a political hashtag top 10 for 2015, and Wake Up America, which is a brand I've put in there, very, very right-wing, was number 6 of the top 10 in the whole country in 2015. The reason why I'm pointing this out, we've never trended on Facebook once. Not once. And I'm equally as engaged on Facebook as I am on Twitter. So that would indicate that there's a difference. Either they're using a different algorithm, which could be an explanation, or there's more human input into how they're dictating their trending topics. Which
is probably something, Kimberly, that's relatively easy to fix. I mean, I don't know their business. I guess I'm going to learn a lot more about it. But if the problem is that they have concerns of bias by people who have been hired, then to me that is maybe handled by a management solution rather than a big hoopla.
And yeah, management or personnel decision, and perhaps they move to a model that is a little bit more neutral and it doesn't have bias embedded in it, like Twitter does, because you see the differences, like Eric points out, between what happens with his show on one social media platform versus the other. So it's an interesting contrast between the two. And now with the immersion of this story coming forward, I mean, there's some great questions, obviously, that you can ask them, and then it's really going to be about the results afterwards in terms of, do we see then a difference because there's been a spotlight put on their social media platform?
I find that my interaction on Facebook and Twitter is very different. On Twitter, it's a lot of news and political stuff, but if I tend to post things that are about politics, or like when I promote the Star Walt Perino podcast on Facebook versus Twitter, the engagement is totally different. It's like on Facebook, nobody cares about anything but my dog.
Yeah.
How do you feel about my dog?
I don't know.
Any advice for me for the meeting?
I don't know why you're so surprised by Facebook, veering away from conservative issues. Al Gore rhythm. Think about it, people. Think about it. I only go onto Facebook for one reason. It does make sense, Kimberly. I've been thinking about this. I only go on Facebook to see how homely my high school classmates have become, and then I go and I like their adult children. It's just to creep them out a little bit. I think the bigger concern, when you go there, I don't care about this issue as much as I care about artificial intelligence. So when you're going there and you're sitting in this meeting and they offer you a brand cupcake or whatever they serve in these stupid places, ask them what happens when Facebook develops its own hive mind, when it reaches singularity, when it becomes smarter than actual people. And so when their IQ, the collective IQ, surpasses human intelligence, we are in trouble. Has he thought about that? When we were enslaved by Facebook.
Maybe you can FaceTime Greg and his little robot friends into this meeting.
It's going to happen, Kimberly. You can laugh at me now, but it's all going to happen.
Yeah, I can't wait to have my own robot.
Can I jump in with just a touch of advice? I know we've got to get Juan in here, but maybe just ask Zuckerberg, why not just go to a purely numeric algorithm for trending? Just take the human element out. Sorry, Greg. Take the human element out of it.
You're crazy.
And just go with however you want to do it, whether it's an acceleration where high acceleration puts it in a trending topic over a course of time, whatever you want to do, but keep it more numeric than ideological.
That's what I was saying. I think that there might be an easier fix, either a management one or a technological one, possibly. Liberals don't necessarily have this kind of a problem.
No,
like, what do you think they would say if the shoe was on the other foot?
Oh, I think it'd be a different conversation, but a similar one in the sense that people are very sensitive in this age when they feel like their point of view is not being recognized. And conservatives have always had a much larger complaint about mainstream, lamestream media than liberals have. But in the case of Facebook, Facebook has now become so big that it is mainstream media. They determine, and you know what you hear from Eric is really true. If they're setting who gets the clicks and whose website is hot, and there was a study out by Pew I just saw in the research that indicated they're the #1 source that sends people to mobile articles. In other words, if you're on your mobile device and you find something to read, you go to Facebook. Facebook is pointing out what's interesting, hot, trending, etc. I think, by the way, Facebook's very different than Twitter in my experience. Twitter tends to be more of the moment and hot, hot, hot. Facebook, people tend to be there for a while and they're searching around. And one last thing I'd say on this point is I think that when you look at something like the algorithm versus the human input, I think it's all human input. I think that, you know...
You think Twitter's using human input, too?
No, I think Twitter is much less, but I think that all of it has to have some human input, and for a very clear reason to my mind. It's useless if you just stick with the numerical numbers, because then people will juice it. They'll find a way just to pile on their perspective.
Like hashtag Justin Bieber, like the entire time.
The one difference, though, that we haven't talked about is anonymity. When you're on Facebook, generally, it's your name, and so that makes you closer to your character as a person, I believe. When you go on Twitter and you're dealing with people who have fake names, they can do anything, be anything that they want. Here's
another thing that you mentioned last week, but I got a couple more numbers. I thought it was worth bringing up again. So, on the news feed side of things, Fox News in 2015, so just last year, was the #1 brand on Facebook. And that was not an objective number. That was purely subjective, just based on the numbers. And in terms of like the engagement we have with our audience, the shareable content, we get 100 to 200 million unique users a month because of our work on Facebook. Guess who the #2 brand is? Anybody? It's not a competitor of ours. It's the WWE.
Of course.
I mean, I feel like we're doing pretty good.
Yeah. We share a number of things in common.
The other
little showmanship.
There's one other controversy surrounding this.
People.
Here's something. I'm going to make my point.
All right.
So last week, when this was a really big news story, there was a suggestion by some that the government get involved. And I'm not for that. I don't think that the government needs to regulate this private company. Any other thoughts?
Absolutely. That's crazy.
Stay out.
That's crazy.
All right. Well,
they'll only make it worse. Let's be honest.
We have one other story to get to in this A block. Are you ready to make a pivot?
Yes.
Okay, come with me. Last week, Washington Post associate editor Bob Woodward made headlines when he said the paper assigned a team of 20 to look into Donald Trump's past. On Fox News Sunday, he said an equivalent effort will be made on Hillary Clinton. Listen.
You got 20 people on her?
Yeah, well, it's not necessarily the number of people, it's who's working on it.
So you got smarter people on Hillary.
No, but you know, believe me, you know, the goal here is the best obtainable version of the truth. You can't find out everything. Lots of work needs to be done.
You were having a moment, a little laughter?
No, I would defend Washington Post because you got to ask yourself who is more interesting. Hillary is like Love Actually. You see it like 500 times a year. You already know the story. And Donald Trump is Deadpool. You know, he's this exciting character that comes out of nowhere that says everything that's on his mind. Just released amazing special effects. And you can't blame Washington Post for wanting to sell copies because Trump's just the same way networks are trying to get eyeballs. Who would do that?
Well, the
by showing Trump.
Clintons aren't boring, Greg. Let's be honest. If you actually tell the truth about everything they've been involved in and their private lives,
you know what I mean, though. We've heard the story.
Are.
We've heard the story so many times, except certain stories.
Right.
But we've heard a lot of the same stuff. But I agree.
If that's all they're doing is digging for facts, you know. But it seems like when they pulled up the. I guess it's relevant. The guy, the publicist.
John Miller.
You love John Miller. John Miller and
John Barron.
John Barron.
It's still the funniest scandal ever.
Yeah,
I mean, at least Catherine Tiff made a good point this weekend. With Hillary's scandals, people get injured or die at Benghazi, but with Trump, his scandal, it's just funny. It's just funny.
It's like an SNL skit.
Yeah, and you'd rather have the funny one than the harmful one, right?
Juan used to be at the Washington Post. What do you think
Yeah.
of the resources that they're dedicating? Do you imagine that they're pretty even over there?
No, I don't. You know, I don't. This even. I don't know. I think again, this goes back to conservative tension. Oh, somebody's not going to properly hear us or represent us. Hey, it's just what Greg said. Nobody knows all about Trump. He has not been in the political arena. Hillary Clinton has been here forever, and her husband's been impeached, and people have made charges against Hillary Clinton going back to her first attempt at proposing some health care solution, and people have said this about Hillary, that. I think there have been books written about her during her college years. So, I mean, it's a total apples and oranges comparison that's being forced by people who say, oh, they're going to pick on the conservative here. I don't even know that he's a conservative.
I just wish they would dig up the video of Hillary Clinton when they're pushing the 94 crime bill before it was actually passed. She was out in the stump. She was stumping for the crime bill. Yeah. And now she's pushed back so hard as a candidate for president against what happened.
Now her husband has to come out and defend the bill that she is now
But then when you get to our C block today, you're going to wonder if they should disavow the crime bill, right?
That's a pretty good long
Deep tease. All right, next, the tale of two